And next, we talk about new Chinese AI models that are taking over the world of tech. AI models created by a Chinese startup called DeepSeek have been gaining a lot of attention worldwide, so much so that they have surpassed ChatGPT as the most downloaded app on the App Store. DeepSeek V3 and DeepSeek R1 are rivals of OpenAI's cutting edge models O1 and O3, and they have been developed with a fraction of the investments. For years, USA has been the leader in artificial intelligence with OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, Meta, and more, but DeepSeek might change that. To learn more about DeepSeek, how it was developed, and how it was able to create a special space for itself in the world of AI, we have the Indian Express's Bijan Jose joining us. Bijan, can you tell us about DeepSeek, what it is, and how it has been developed?
DeepSeek is actually a cutting-edge Chinese AI company, and incidentally, its products is also named DeepSeek V3, DeepSeek R1. So this company was founded in 2023 by a Chinese entrepreneur known as Liang Wenfeng. So this company is headquartered in Hangzhou and focuses on developing open source large language models or LLMs. And despite being relatively new, this company has gained a lot of attention ever since it launched two of its models earlier this month. And these models have gained attention rapidly for their innovative use of technology and the way cost effectively they made it. And unlike other AI models, they have also used different technologies, which has actually made the models more efficient and powerful also. Briefly, I'll just mention, because this is a very technical topic and it will be unlikely, we should dwell deeper into it. But in essence, DeepSeek uses techniques like multi-head latent attention, which is very technical again. And then there's another architecture called mixture of experts architecture to train these models. And these techniques, actually lead to less computing power, which essentially they have, harnessed the power or capability of older generation GPUs for this. And when it comes to mixture of experts, this kind of an architecture, I'll give you a very simple example. Like when we use a prompt in an AI model, like say in ChatGPT or something, when we input a question, the entire model works around answering that question. But when it comes to this new type of architecture, which is MOE, mixture of experts, like the moment we put an input a question, there are smaller expert models within, So there are multiple models at work, and there's a division of labor that happens behind scene, which makes this model more efficient.
Right. And what makes it stand out amongst an array of AI models?
So we need to understand one thing. When it comes to building AI models, these models actually require a lot of computational power. And for computational power, there is a need of bigger architecture, and that requires massive investments. And that can be seen like when we contrast DeepSeek R1 model with GPT-4o model by OpenAI. OpenAI had invested a whopping $100 million into training that model. Whereas, on the contrast, DeepSeek has only invested somewhere around $5 to $6 million, which is what we know so far. And this is also debated, but yeah, that is what the company is sticking to. And if we go by this is a monumental achievement because, they have actually delivered a state-of-the-art AI model at a fraction of the cost that has been spent by big players like OpenAI, Meta, Microsoft, or Google. So that is what sets them apart. And again, the biggest highlight of this development is that unlike any of these bigger US rivals, DeepSeek has gone the open source way, meaning now they have made the code public. So anybody can edit or maybe build on top of them, without any constraint. Because as we know, OpenAI is a closed source model. Nobody knows how it works. Nobody can, edit or, build on top of it just like that,
And Bijan, can you tell us about Lian Wenfeng, the CEO of DeepSeek?
As far as whatever is in public domain, Lian Wenfeng is like, he was into quantitative hedge fund. He had a firm. I mean, he actually has a firm, High Flyer. And from what we know, he's around 40 years old. And then like around 2019, he took an active interest in understanding AI. And his interest progressed from that to a stage where he wanted to try out like what all we can do with AI to achieve artificial general intelligence. And in 2023, he set up this company called DeepSeek. And also there are like reports like that say that he actually bought a lot of GPUs back in 2021. And there are also reports that claim that DeepSeek is actually a side gig for him and his billionaire friends. So there is very limited information as of now. But from what we have learned from the public domain is that they have very inventively used resources to build this company. I'll give you an example. According to Chinese media reports, Wenfeng believes that he did not want any experienced engineers or software developers to work with him in this team. Instead, he opted for PhD students from premier universities in China. So that was one of the very smart moves that he did. And other than that, we know that he has this philosophy of, like doing AI for the sake of scientific curiosity and not for profiteering. This is all reported, but we don't know how true this is. But again, that is a big contrast when it comes to OpenAI. If we like jog back our memories, OpenAI began as something for public good. Now it is heading towards a profitable organization kind of a model. But essentially, if you look at the trajectory, DeepSeek is doing what OpenAI actually intended to do.
Right. But from what we understand, these models were created despite USA's export controls.
See, around 2022, US imposed some export controls on China. See, let's understand one thing. NVIDIA is an American company, and it's the biggest name when it comes to chip making. And NVIDIA is the one who produces all these graphic processing units, which is actually required to build all these large language models. So what happens is when US imposed export controls, NVIDIA also actually they were prevented from selling two of the high-end chips to the Chinese counterparts. And when this kind of a rule was imposed, NVIDIA apparently decided to sell a watered-down version of the H100 chipset, which was like an 800, and which is actually not on par with the H100, which is like very top-end kind of a GPU. So what happened was Chinese accumulated these 800 GPUs, and they began working on that. So here the biggest learning is that regardless of this kind of restrictions imposed by US, Chinese circumvented and found a way to work around these restrictions to bring up an AI model that is on par with OpenAI's frontier models on various benchmarks.
And Bijan, you write that DeepSeek is setting a new benchmark for innovation. So can you tell us why is that?
See, when we talk about AI models, as I mentioned earlier, there are like billions and billions of investments required, like until January 2025, till DeepSeek emerged. See, innovation is happening at a time when China is facing so much opposition from the US or a kind of trade restriction, because at the end of the day, US does not want China to lead in the AI race. So US has been for the longest time dominating this space. And when it comes to innovation, they have used again very minimal resources to bring something that is on par with that US companies have developed. And another aspect of that is like, see, when it comes to generating AI models, like laying the foundational models there is a lot of environmental cost also in the back end. Like, we need pure water to cool data centers. There is carbon emissions that go up. So when we look at DeepSeek, which achieved this kind of a feat at a very minimal cost, like we are put into the situation where we actually question why is there even a need to build, a need to infuse like such large amounts of money into building these large architecture that actually consumes a lot of power and it's not yielding anything for the environment. So that is what the purpose of innovation is, right? So we are like bringing the best of our minds together, producing something that is on par with the latest technology or even surpasses it in various terms, and also it's environmentally conscious.
Right. And why would DeepSeek be a threat to the development of AI in the US?
See, that is a very complex topic to be discussed, but because there's a lot of geopolitics in play also, and this has, if you look into the history, US has arm twisted its way into monopolizing a lot of technology, be it nuclear power related technologies, defense technologies. So this is one of those, like, see, when we talk about what is US importing to the world, it's technology. That is their core strength. Like, we have the biggest tech companies in US right now, top five, and that is what they're importing to the world. And when it comes to China, if China succeeds with something like DeepSeek, which was like relatively unknown like for a very long time, and now it has suddenly burst out into mainstream, we don't really know how many more companies like DeepSeek are resting in China and thriving right now. So this is something from a geopolitical front. America's concerns are pretty much valid, I feel.
Bijan, you also use DeepSeek yourself, so tell us your experience.
In my personal experience, technology triumphs here, and the use cases, it's fairly similar because the kind of questions that I've asked, the problem solving skills that you see, it's pretty similar to other AI models. But one thing that has been distinctive is like when we talk about OpenAI's O1 model, which is a reasoning model, the moment you input a question or a prompt asking it a question, it shows that it's thinking. It just says the text shows just thinking, and on the contrary with DeepSeek, if you ask a question to it, it shows it's thinking, and on the interface itself, you can see how it is thinking. Like just as a human thinks, like if you ask me a question, I'll calculate in my mind, I talk to myself. There is a self-talk that is happening there. I'm talking to myself, I'm deducting, I'm analyzing, and before I give you my final answer, there is a chain of thought that's happening inside my mind. So with DeepSeek R1, you can actually see that happening right in front of you, where it's like, okay, this should be this, but this can be this also. A can be B, but B can be C also. Like, so there's this transparent kind of thinking that you can see there. So that is what has caught my attention. And apart from that, it is equally fast. It's all that any other chatbot would do.